Hello, I just got one of these Adjust-A-Gate frame kits, and this is an all metal constructed kit that is both hinge, latch, and frame that you just add wood to. And some of the reviews were really good on this. It's been around for quite a while, and the reason I chose this is because it has a frame, and it looks like after you put the wood into it, then it just becomes a substructure. And if the wood goes bad, I have a lot of cats that jump up on my fence and scratch up the wood, then I could just unscrew the wood, throw it away, and put new wood back on the same metal frame. So I think it might save me a lot of trouble for a long time. Now, if you'd like to join me, you can see here I have some really nice tongue and groove redwood, some 2x4s, and I'm going to take you through this process of how to use this kit to assemble a gate for your property. Thanks for watching. It's always helpful to do a pre-installation paint job. Here I'm undercoating it first, and after everything's undercoated, then I'm going to go ahead and put on 2 more coats of the final paint. Here I go. 3 coats, and that's a good start. To get started, I always like to lay out all the parts and check their condition and the number of them. And everything looked pretty good in this set. Now I'm going to find the center of my 6-foot 2x4 right in the middle, and then from that I'm going to measure 16 inches up and 1 inch in and make a little crisscross and do the same thing at the bottom. Now, after my measurements are completed, I'm going to go 1 inch in from the edge and use my punch to make a mark. And then I'm going to go down below and do the same thing. After I've done that, then I've made a little jig. I took a piece of 2x4 and drilled a hole through it on my drill press. It's perfectly 90 degrees. If this drill bit goes in, up or down, your hinge isn't going to work right. So watch what I do. I do a little starter hole, remove the drill bit, put it through my 2x4, set it right where it needs to go, push it in. Now I'm guaranteed to get a 90-degree hole into that wood. Looks good. Now I'm going to take a hammer and tap a little bit on this threaded rod to get it started in the hole. Now I'm going to take a small section of pipe and use it as a lever arm, and this drives it in and gives you actually tremendous force compared to just using your hand. And so I'll whip it around in fast motion here and drive it almost all the way in. Some of the instructions show to leave this point down, and if you do that, it locks the gate into the fence and it can't be stolen. But I prefer to move it to an upward position, and then I can lift the gate up and take it out when I need to do repairs to it. Now I'm going to attach the hinge side bracket, and what I'm going to do is lift up the side bracket and it will slide into the hinge bracket. And when I do that, you're going to notice on the bolt that one part of the bolt has kind of a square edge on it, and it's going to fit into that square notch right there. And I think when I do this, I'm going to have the flat side of the bolt on the wood side of the fence. So now watch what I do. I separate the nut from the bolt, I slide the side bracket in, slide the bolt and lock it into the square part of the hole, let things fall down for a moment, and then I put a 9/16 inch nut on the bolt, tighten it by hand, and then I'm going to get myself ready to use my little ratchet. Now notice that hole underneath the horizontal bar right there. It's really important that that is where it is, because that's where the cable attachment starts. I'm going to go ahead and ratchet it in fairly tight right now. Looks like I picked the windiest day of the year to do this, but take a look now. I've got a spacer bar over here to get my 1 inch. I have my Irwin clamp holding everything square. And over here I have a second Irwin clamp, and I have my screws ready to put in on each side. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those in and see if everything stays square. This is a sight that warms my heart. Dead level, screws flushed in, square here. I'm headed for a real nice gate. Well, I have a nice fluid movement here, and everything is nice and tight. I'm going to tap these plastic caps to keep the rain out of the posts. So now I have the place where I want to put this. I'm going to go ahead and mark the holes for this. And even though in this kit they give you some self-drilling screws, I don't believe from the reviews I've read that this is appropriate because it's not going to cut through the metal. So I'm going to pre-drill some pilot holes and then go in with these. When I'm drilling a pilot hole, a rule I use is I take and I get a drill bit that is about the size of the screw without the threads. So the threads themselves are going to bite into the wood, or in this case metal. There it is right there, you can see. I can always make the hole bigger, but I can't make it smaller. Now when I go to do this, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take a punch, and I'm going to take this punch and make a little starter hole. Makes a dent so that we don't want the drill bit traveling at all. Then I'll go ahead and drill into those two holes. I'm going to use this little driver to drive it in, and I'm kind of spoiled because I have these DeWalt tools now that I'm an old guy. Most of my life I didn't have this stuff. Yeah, that's going to work fine. And we just go like this. That's all there is to it. Now, you don't need to have this. You can get it in another way. You can do it by hand. But since I'm blessed to have that, I'm going to go ahead and use it. And then I'll put the two in here, but I'm going to lay it down on the floor to do that. I just have to stop for a second and praise God for the beauty of this world. I hope we take care of it. Thank you, Jesus. Now, what I really love about a setup like this, with these pins up like this, I can just slip it in, and when I need to, I can just lift it up, take it down, lay it on the lawn, and grab something like a weenie roller and just roll a new paint job right on top of it. And if it gets really torn up, I can just pull off the boards, get some new boards, 6 or 7 boards, and I've got a brand new gate because the strength of this steel structure remains. Now, for correct positioning of this latch catch, what you do is slowly close the gate on the latch when it's not screwed in, and then move it up and down and position it in exactly the right spot and make sure it catches real nicely. When it does, then you can just simply move the gate out of the way, or in this case leave it there, and take the punch and mark where you're going to drill holes and put the screws in. Now take a look. Snap, it's shut. Okay, one more time, and it's shut. That's working perfectly for me. Now in attaching the cable, what you need to do is take the loose end of the cable and bend it and then force it through this little latch. And it's kind of hard to squeeze it through there. Once you get it in, you can kind of start finger tightening it and tighten as far as you can with your fingers. Now, when you get that in place, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to take the turnbuckle and hook it on the bottom part. Notice there's still some slack in the cable, and you can pull on it when you get it on the top here. So you hook it in there, pull it, and pull as much of the slack out as you can, and then you're going to reach for your ratchet or wrench and begin tightening those little nuts and holding it as tight as you can. Now this isn't as easy as it looks. I was trying to hold it with one hand and use the ratchet with the other. Finally, I got on the correct side of the fence, held the metal with the pliers, and then used my ratchet and really cranked it down. Now, if you've never worked with one of these turnbuckles, what I would suggest is first take your hand and tighten as far as you can. It'll get fairly snug and you won't be able to turn it anymore. And the next thing you do is grab a screwdriver and put it in the slot and continue to tighten. Be careful here. You just need to snug it up. If you make it too tight, you're going to pull the whole gate out of alignment. The last thing I need to do is cut through this cable. After I cut the cable, I noticed that there were shredded little pieces of metal that I know sooner or later I'm going to get cut with. So I just wrapped them with a little bit of electrical tape to take care of that possible hazard. Well, here it is. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. At first I had it a rectangle up here and it needed a little bit more of pizzazz. So what I did is I cut this curve in here, and the way I did it is I rigged up this little compass, if you will. The stick has a finishing nail down here, and I placed it in the center. I found the exact center of this. I placed the nail, I still have the spot here, and then I just drew this arc. I lifted up the gate, set it down, and then cut that arc across the top. So there it is, I'm finished. I have this release, and it shuts very nicely. I'm happy with this kind of release. It was kind of expensive. This thing cost 15 bucks. But if you think about how many thousands of times in the next 10 years I'll be doing that, I think it's worth it. When I got done, you could see light through this hinge area. And so what I did is I cut a little piece of material and tacked it on in here. And then when I close things up, it doesn't allow you to see any light. I'll peek around this corner and show you. You don't see any light that way. And then I did pretty much the same thing if I pan around and show you this side. I have this little piece of trim wood right here. And that also allows you to not see any light through there. This here is my major complaint. On this side of the metalworks are large steel bolt heads, and they won't allow this piece of wood to sit down properly. And so the fence comes across straight, and then right at the end it does a little boomerang number out like that. And there's not much you can do about that. On the other side, I put a little shim in here, and when I brought the screw into the metal, I had to do that so this piece wouldn't snap off. So be careful with that when you get done with your project. Wow, check out those colors. Awesome. Here's a view from the back side. Nice clean look. Here's a final view from the front of the house.
and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. Thanks for watching.